Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Cricket World Cup experience. I'm your host Farhan Shahid and this is our co-host Harvey Bhogal.
If you like this video, please like the video, please leave a comment below and please subscribe to our channel and make sure you hit the bell icon.
And check out our match reports on cricketworldcupexperience.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, and that's at CWC Experience.
So we've had 2 weeks of the 2019 Cricket World Cup so far. And apart from the rain, it's been an absolutely cracking tournament.
Absolutely. And today we're on Thursday the 13th of June, but unfortunately, New Zealand versus India has been washed off.
Now, in this first episode, we're going to review how each team has done so far. So here we go.
So let's make a start. And with our first team, it's Afghanistan. So unfortunately, Afghanistan have lost all 3 of their first games.
So they've had to face Australia and New Zealand in 2 of those. Now, in both those games, they did give a good account of themselves, but unfortunately, they were beaten quite easily.
Absolutely. And the one that they'll be most disappointed is a match versus Sri Lanka.
Yeah, well, they had them bowled out in 36.5 overs. Now, what do you think they could have done differently to win?
Well, the thing is, Harvey, they only needed 202 to win off 41 overs. And they didn't need to go out looking for those big shots against the likes of Malinga. Just needed to stay in, knock the ball around for 1s and 2s, and then they had the overs to reach the target.
Yeah, and with that, they might have actually lost their best chance of winning a game at this tournament. Because I did say at the start of the tournament that they would win 1 game. Now, they are the Cinderella team of international cricket. They've done incredibly well to get here. They definitely do deserve a place at this stage, okay? And I do still think that opponents will need to be very wary when they're facing them. Now, Australia are a strong side with depth throughout, okay? Ian Botham once said that if you just chose 11 random Australians, they'd end up giving you a really good game.
That's true. And really the difference, I think, with Australia is their mentality. They've proven over the years, time and time again, that they're never beaten until the last ball. They can always find a way to get back into games. Also, in big tournaments, they don't really have many bad days and they've got a great track record.
Now, after that loss to India, in which they did actually play quite well, they bounced back well against Pakistan. Now, what's scary is, after that game, David Warner said that all this booing that him and Steve Smith have been the victims of is actually spurring them on to play even better.
Yeah, and the other scary thing about Australia is their opening bowling pair of Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins. Now, they bowl at 90 miles an hour consistently, and Starc especially gets excellent shape with the ball.
Stoinis is also a fantastic death bowler, and their fielding is probably some of the best in the world. Now, they might not have the big names like McGrath and Warne and Steve Waugh, but I would not be surprised if they ended up winning the tournament.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Harvey. Now, Harvey, in one-day cricket, I have to say Bangladesh, one of the top teams in the world. They've proved that time and time again against wins, against top opposition, and especially in the win recently against South Africa and the narrow loss to New Zealand.
Yeah, that win against South Africa was a masterclass. They put on 330 and they bowled very well to limit the Proteas to 309 runs.
Definitely. And Shakib Al Hasan, one of the best all-rounders in the world, and he's had a brilliant tournament so far.
Now, they didn't play the same way against England, okay? Their fielding was poor. Their bowling tactics just didn't really work. They thought they could surprise England by bringing the spinners on to open, but I think that was a bit too predictable for them.
And they were unfortunate with their match against Sri Lanka because it was rained off. But I'll tell you what, I think they would have won that one. Also, they've had great support in England. They've got a massive fan base, which will help them pull through those difficult games.
Now, I think that Bangladesh have proved that they're one of the top 5, top 6 teams in the world. The thing is if they're going to qualify for the semi-finals, they need to be top 4. And we're going to have to wait and see if they are at that level.
Now, many people are calling England the favourites of this tournament. That's probably fair based on their one-day cricket performances in the last few years.
Yes, it's been an absolute transformation since the last World Cup. They've got big power-hitting openers and in the middle order, and the batting depth down the order too. I'm thinking especially Jos Buttler, who is now fully fit.
And on top of that, brilliant fielding. I'd say Archer is added a new dimension to the bowling attack, but I'd have to say the weaknesses for England are probably their spinners. I mean, Rashid is a great bowler, but he's not been at his best, and Moeen, has not been convincing overall with his bowling arm.
Also, I feel like if Liam Plunkett is not playing, England are really missing a different dimension in the middle overs to control the runs and also to take wickets.
Definitely. And I tell you what, a big setback against Pakistan. Now that came out of the blue, really. And then bouncing back against Bangladesh shows the championship mentality. I think if they didn't make the top 4, I'd be very surprised, Harvey.
Okay, so India have had 2 convincing victories against South Africa and Australia. The 2 factors, though, that I've got counting against them are their bowlers and the English conditions.
But their pace bowlers, Kumar and Bumrah, they've been impressive with the new ball and at the end. Chahal and Yadav have been mesmerising with the mysterious spin.
And their batsmen have dealt with the Australian fast bowlers in the conditions here in England. And unlike a decade ago, their fielding is really good.
Absolutely. But I have to say a major setback is the injury to the opener, Shikhar Dhawan. It will be interesting to see how they deal with that and who replaces him at the top of the order.
Now, many people will see them as favourites. I think they'll make the semi-finals.
Definitely. I mean, that seems like a surefire bet with this Indian team. But the next match against their fierce rivals Pakistan, which would be an absolute cracker at Old Trafford.
So table-topping New Zealand have 3 wins from 3 so far. Obviously, the game today against India got rained off. Now, they are always called the dark horses, which I think is very unfair. I think this is mainly because they're not a big country or a big cricketing nation like India or Australia.
Absolutely, yeah. And they're fantastic in all areas, Harvey. But I'd have to say the biggest threat to any side is their pace bowling quartet. I mean, if it's not enough facing Matt Henry or Trent Boult, then you've got to deal with Lockie Ferguson and James Neesham. I tell you what, they give an easy job to their batsmen who could score 300 plus every single innings.
Now, they've been impressive in the tournament so far, but they have some tough tasks ahead. Whether they can overcome these will prove whether they get a place in the last 4, which I do expect them to get, and whether they can get into that final.
Right, Harvey, where do we begin with Pakistan? Well, like we said in our article on cricketworldcupexperience.com, Pakistan are a tale of 2 different teams. They were absolutely abysmal against West Indies.
Then against England, they were absolutely fantastic. Their batsmen made 348 with some big runs from the top order. Their bowling was brilliant with Shadab Khan and Mohammad Amir bowling very well, and Wahab Riaz being the star of the show. The fielding was unrecognisable from either of the other 2 games.
Definitely, but then we move on to the next game. Against the Aussies, there are only patches of this team. The fielding was very poor, apart from Mohammad Amir, who had an excellent fifer, taking 5 important wickets in that game. But the bowling overall was pretty expensive. The batting collapse against the Aussies really hurt Pakistan. Just when you think they're back in the game, they fall short once more, and all those wickets start to tumble towards the end of the innings.
Now, how they do in the Super Bowl of cricket against India will largely depend upon which team turns up. One thing to bear in mind, though, is this. The last time that both those teams played in a final in England, it was the 2017 ICC Champions Trophy final, and Pakistan won.
Now, for the South Africans, without some of their former greats, like AB de Villiers, Morning Morkel, and now that Dale Steyn is injured, they don't seem to be like the team that we once knew. They've shown flashes of their brilliance against the losses against England, Bangladesh and India, but I would say they're no longer a top 4 team.
Then they lost their chance to get a win against the West Indies, although that would have been very unlikely the way that the Windies were playing. Their top run scorer has been Kagiso Rabada, who is in the team for his bowling. Amla and Duplessis are lacking form. They've been very reliant on Quinton de Kock.
Now, Harvey, would you have brought back AB de Villiers for this tournament?
It's a tough one. I can understand where the South African cricketing authorities are coming from. They're trying to build a team for the future. He had retired from international cricket and made himself not available. And they want the team to be bigger than one individual player who's going to just choose, I'm going to play for this series or that series. On the other hand, he's a fantastic player, even if he wasn't amazing in the IPL this year. He's a fantastic player, a fantastic leader. He could have added something completely different to that South African dressing room. He's been there before and seen all these plays. He's been in World Cups. So I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm going to sit on the fence with this one, but there's a pro and con for either side of the argument there.
Yeah, there's some great points there, Harvey. I would say, though, South Africa, they do need to be a bit more consistent if they're going to turn around these patchy performances into much needed wins that they need to get through to the next stage.
So for 2.5 decades, Sri Lanka have, for such a small country, had almost 2 golden generations of cricketers. But now it seems like many of those players have retired and Sri Lanka just aren't the same team anymore. Their defeat against New Zealand was embarrassing, as was being bowled out by Afghanistan for 201 runs.
Definitely. But their comeback against the Afghans to bowl them all out for 152 to win was absolutely brilliant. It showed they've got that fighting spirit in the dressing room, that anything can happen in this World Cup. They are in a bizarre position, though, I'd say, Harvey, because since their last 2 matches against Pakistan and Bangladesh have both been rained off, we'll see how they can accumulate their points.
Yeah, I think that's very tough for them. It's going to be very difficult for them now to try and get wins. The other setback they have is that Nuwan Pradeep, who had been in very fine form, he's now injured. I read lately that he's been to see an Indian surgeon. We'll have to wait and see what happens with his case.
Definitely. But they do have some tough matches ahead, and the best chance of victory might even be against South Africa.
Now, the West Indies are one of the most exciting teams to watch in world cricket right now. They are the reigning T20 world champions, and also many of their stars from the T20 leagues around the world have come back to this West Indies team, ready to mount a challenge for the World Cup.
Most definitely. And they were incredibly impressive against Pakistan on their first game, where they effectively turned it into a T20 match. And I think they had the Aussies for the taking, but they let them off the hook. Should have won that match, which ended in a narrow loss. And it is very likely that they would have beaten South Africa had they taken those 2 early wickets before the match was rained off.
Now, for those many years that the West Indies were poor, they really lacked the potent base bowling attack that they used to have before, when you think of Courtney Walsh and Curtly Ambrose and many fast bowlers from generations before. I think they do have that now with Sheldon Cottrell, O'Shane Thomas, and the all-rounders Dre Russ and captain Jason Holder.
Now they have a strong batting lineup as well, including the likes of Shea Hope, Shimron Hetmar, Nicholas Pooran, and the universal boss himself, Chris Gill.
Now, I think they have every chance of making the semi-finals. Many have said that in the top 4 it's going to be England, Australia, India, and then maybe a toss-up between New Zealand or West Indies. West Indies are going to need to try and make it count and get that last spot.
Now guys, thank you for watching the Cricket World Cup experience. We've been your hosts, Farhan and Harvey. Please like this video, leave a comment below, and please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon.
Check out cricketworldcupexperience.com, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at CWC Experience. Hope you enjoy the rest of the World Cup. See you next time for episode 2. Bye.
See you later.